And we are back. We are back. What I want to do now is I want to segue. And as I said to you, the first hour of the class, hour and 15 minutes, was to look at some geopolitical issues that's going on in society today, and as a class, just to quickly provide commentary and analysis or reflection on that. That's very important. That's part of the practicality of the course. Now, I want to look at the issue of, I want to ask the question as we get into theology, because part of what we do in this course is to consider theological concepts. When you study society, a society's practices and traditions, more often than not, are related to the theology, the understanding of God. If you study Jewish society and study the Torah, a lot of that stems from that particular society's culture and their understanding of God. The question is, let me ensure that I'm recording. I am recording. The question is, should theology transcend culture? Should theology transcend culture? That's a good question I'm going to ask you guys. And we're going to delve into that a little bit, because since we're talking about theology, one of the concepts we study in Caribbean thought is theology. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to talk about theology by just saying, coming to class and saying, okay, this is Caribbean theology. We're gonna as I said, this is a practical course that looks at Caribbean issues, but from a subaltern as post-colonial skeptics, or with a little bit of skepticism, because we're saying that Caribbean, we started from the outset to say Caribbean is an invention. Does that mean our theology? When you study Jewish society, and I'm just using Jewish society as an example, and a lot of what we call Christianity today stems from, in some part, a Jewish or Hebrew understanding of, and not just Hebrew or Jewish understanding of, but actual Jewish traditions. But societies have always married. There's always been a marriage between societies as people meet other people, they incorporate other traditions. But part of the problem of marriage and merging traditions is more often than not, some traditions get left behind, or some traditions are prioritized over others, especially when it depends on the experiences of a people who have come out of a post-colonial experience. When you study the Torah or the Jewish people, or the Hebrew people, Judaism is a segment of Hebrew. But when you study the Torah is really, the Torah cannot be this. When you study the Torah, you cannot look at it only as a theological book. You can't just, and you can't look at it devoid of its human inspirations, as much as we talk about biblical scriptures and biblical writings are inspired by God, those are words of people appealing, and men have always done that. Now men appeal to science to today, but prior to the Renaissance and Reformation, the appeal was to God. The Bible is the inspired word of God, or the Quran is the inspired word of Allah. Okay, or Torah is the inspired word. But you know, if you study societies, part of studying societies, I said to you, when you study society, you ask the question, in whose interest was the society developed? In whose interest and for who? Okay. Say, for example, I say to you right now, Israel said to the Palestinians, we will free you to do whatever you want to do, to determine your own independence. Okay. But it has to be an independence and a freedom that we choose for you. You can't do XYZ. You cannot. Okay. But anyway, society, you study in whose interest a society. And part of studying society, studying the culture, the way of life for people, studying their philosophy, their theology, their beliefs, their traditions, their history, their challenges. That's part of studying a society. And when you start to study like Greek society and start read people like Homer or Hesiod's Theogony, and start to study Greek society or the foundations of knowledge and from Homer all the way up, you will find and study traditions, how every tradition and how every epoch have a particular way of positioning and purporting a representation of their understanding of history or culture. Some people say that history is for the future. Men live now, and then men in the future make sense of it. But the point I'm trying to make as we begin to consider theology and society is that you cannot divorce society from a people. And in many instances, many people would quote scripture, not realizing that. And when you look at the rabbis in Judaism, the rabbis, they were not just prophets or priests, but they were cultural leaders. You know, you could not divorce the prophets and the priests, the religious leaders, from the cultural leaders. They were almost one and the same. When you study the Torah, you cannot just study it as a religious book. You have to also look at it from the perspective of a cultural book. And that book was used to preserve religions. Is an institution that is used to preserve the culture, the way of life of a people. You want to preserve the way of life of a people. But yet still, different peoples today who have inherited cultures and religions from the past still appeal to the Torah and other biblical writings as normative for them, without considering that those biblical writings that they are appealing to are writings that only promote a particular kind of way of life for a particular kind of people. So say, for example, the issue about circumcision, and even in the Caribbean today, some people still practice circumcision, and it has been incorporated into Christianity or in some Christian institutions today. especially with Christianity, morphic or some inheriting, because some Christians, Christianity stems from a messianic kind of Judaism, which some Jews believe was irreligious, ungodly, devilish, witchcraft. At one point, Christianity, as it existed back in the first 100 years of Christianity, Christianity was not widely accepted as part of the culture of, okay, was seen as weird and suspect. But of course, we know that a lot of effort went into making Christianity a normative part of society. And so when one studies society and study theology and Christianity and so on, you have to study the history of that. So when people point to the Torah or the Old Testament, and point to a particular way of life as being normative, as being the best, they're actually highlighting a particular culture, a particular way of people, of a particular set of people as being better than, as being the best. But please remember, people also appeal to God, certain behaviors. In order to get people to do certain things, you want to appeal to God. And that is and that is important. So the Torah was, you cannot divorce the Torah and the rabbis and so on as just being you cannot see it just as a biblical book or the word of God. It also must be seen as a cultural book, denoting and detailing the way of life of a people so as to preserve that way of life of the people. And so, excuse me, when some people point to the Old Testament as being the way or the ideal, they are pointing to a particular customs of a set of people as being the ideal, as being better than theirs. I taught Caribbean theology before, and I taught it last semester, and I thought that particular lecture was very important, and I'm going to summarize that lecture as I begin to talk about, should theology transcend culture? Should theology transcend culture? Yet, yet we ask the question, should theology transcend culture? Yet culture is part of theology. Now, when we talk about Caribbean theology involves the contemplation of divine and religious beliefs within the context of the Caribbean region. Again, when we talk about Caribbean theology, what does it involve? It involves what? The study and contemplation of divine and religious beliefs within the context of the Caribbean, the context of the Caribbean region. Theology is, when we talk about theology, theos, logos, the study of God, it is very important to point out here that while we say that you cannot divorce culture from theology, and while many might argue that theology should not transcend culture because culture defines theology, one must understand that irrespective of the culture that has come to shape one's theology and the theology that has come to shape one's culture, what is consistent is that almost every culture considers God. Paul Tillich argues, all right, that theology is man's ultimate concern. Talk about the theology of it. When people talk about the ultimate, we talk about the divine. But there is that each of us have this divine tendency, that tendency to consider that which is the ultimate, that which is beyond us. And some people, it drives them to worship the sun. Some people, it drives them to worship the stars. Some people, it drives them to consider the institution that gives credence to Jesus, Allah, or some other faith experience. But what culture or does not transcend is the reality of a God that is, and how, when we define, how do we define? But every single culture, and even Caribbean theology, when it contemplates religious beliefs in relation to the divine, it speaks to or consider the divine as being than that which nothing greater can be conceived or imagined. God or the divine or the ultimate is infinite. We are not. Cultures are just ways of life of a people, but the divine and the ultimate, the fact that all cultures bear mark this understanding of the ultimate, what we know that there is something beyond us. There is a God that is beyond us. There is the ultimate, which is infinite, but we are not. God is unlimited, but we are not. Okay? That much we can agree on. Okay? That there is something that is beyond us. God is than that which nothing greater can be conceived or imagined. God is infinite, we are limited. Yet we, in our limitations of mind, have sought to try to understand and relate to that which is beyond us. And then have created rules and regulation that define how we relate to that which we believe is beyond us. As if, and who creates these rules and regulations? Men acting as if they are the only arbiters of truth and the only people who the divine can relate to, and they set the rules of engagement. The other day, by the way, I saw an email the other day asking all brethren people to identify, to report. So if you are with members of the Brethren Church, you haven't seen that email. It's an email asking all members who go to JTS who are part of the Brethren Church to just be, to identify themselves. I even was going to talk about that in class today. The fact when you're part of a group and you're going to an institution, you're being asked to identify yourself. Why? Is it for control? Anyways, I don't want to be seen as radical. I am not a radical person, but I believe in having conversation. Conversation is important. People don't like to have the conversation because they believe that their position is threatened. They don't want people to be exposed to certain knowledge because they believe. But you know, I used to teach apologetics. Apologetics is the use of logic to defend the faith. And I said and when I used to teach apologetics, I used to tell the students in apologetics class, I used to tell the students, people shouldn't be afraid to engage other people about their faith. People shouldn't be afraid. People shouldn't be afraid to have their faith challenged. If you are afraid to have your faith challenged to the point where you are hiding from such engagement, that's a problem. It means then you do not stand, you are standing on loose and shaky grounds. Okay? It means you still have not come to terms with your own beliefs and your own faith. And therefore, you have to explore it and push it to its logical end. Because we are all unique and God made us unique beings. And we answer ultimately to God, not to man, who have created rules of engagement. Now, it is important to recognize that Caribbean theology, it's important to recognize that Caribbean theology encompasses more than just African ancestry. Very important, because when we study the Caribbean, we're not just looking at the African side of us. Okay, the other, when you study Caribbean, it's not, we are a diverse people. We also find influences from various other cultures, such as East Indian, Chinese, stemming from the indentured laborers that came to the Caribbean, indigenous communities, and in some cultures like Guyana, Belize, even in Puerto Rico and some other Caribbean nations, you find a small remnant of indigenous community that remain even after the European influence, and they're still there. You also, okay, so understanding this diversity enriches our perspective. Okay, not, and also, of course, not, and I should include European. And we talk about the issue when you study Caribbean, you say that we say that we are hybrid people. What is hybrid? A mixture, or I usually have the word admixture, additional mixture, mixtures upon mixtures. But one of the key goals of Caribbean theology is to encourage and reclaim cultural identity. One of the key goals of Caribbean theology, or theology in general, theology, is to encourage and reclaim cultural identity. And again, I'm going to point to one of the greatest and best example, and one of the things I celebrate the Jewish people for. They are very good at reclaiming their cultural identity. They are very good at they can trace their tradition to way back from the beginning of time. They are very good. And if you want to study human history, a very good history to study is the Jewish history. Okay, which has a lot of religious influence. Okay, a lot of traditional religious influence. And what is important about their tradition and their faith and their beliefs, it helps to encourage and reclaim cultural identity. And that is why you find that, say for example, Israel was able to go back to part of Palestine or go back to Jerusalem and reclaim it as their own, much to the protestation and the objections of many Palestinians who occupy the region, who say that you guys left, we won, it's now our land, you have no right to the land. But donkey years down the line, Israel, there was the people of Israel, because Israel is not just a nation, they are people, and through their religion, they were able to they're able to preserve their identity and their heritage and to reclaim their land. And that is one of the key goals of Caribbean theology. And I say to you, that is one of the ways in which Caribbean people, or people from Africa who came to the Caribbean, and those who were already here, and who were colonized, that's how that was part of the project, okay, to strip them of their personality, strip them of their history, remove their cultures and so on. And part of that was to, okay, and to remove their any proximity or connection with their religion. And even today, you find that Black and brown people in the Caribbean and even in the Americas look down upon or provide scant regards to their own heritages, to their own histories, to their own traditions and their beliefs, choosing to accept a more Eurocentric form of their tradition than their beliefs. A Eurocentric form. Because I said to you, one of the key goals of Caribbean theology is to encourage and reclaim cultural identity, because that is one of the goals of religious traditions. That's one of the goal of theology. Yet, when you study, if one of the key goals of Caribbean of theology is to encourage and reclaim cultural identity, but colonization, one of the acts of colonization was to to strip people from their personality and their cultures, their religion, and and to corrupt it as being nothing, as being less than. Why? Why is that so? Why was it important as part of the colonization process to remove any kind of religious identity or connections to these people's religion, their connections, any connection to their religion? Because religion helps to reclaim cultural identity, preserve cultural identity. It protects any kind of claim or future challenge. That's okay. Theology does that. So they gave them a brand new theology. So any religion that they brought, they were supposed to quickly lose that. Because if they held on to their religion, it continues to connect them to their past and to their present and to the peoples. And the plan was to remove any kind of identity that they may have as a people, any culture that they have. So part of the plan was to remove part of colonization was to remove a people's cultural identity, and part of that involves taking away their religion, or redefining them as not having a religion, or maybe if they did, it was one that was based on a kind of devilish, cannibalistic kind of worship and tradition. And even up to today, that's the idea and the attitude that many Caribbean people have towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. And the Caribbean theology is important to this end, because it helps to revisit the history of the Caribbean people and tell the true story, not a gospel devoid of the true experiences of these people. Okay, but one that revisits these people, and one that tells their true story, their true religion, their true experiences, and connects them to their past and dignifies them. By integrating elements of African and Caribbean spirituality, by integrating elements of African and Caribbean spirituality, we can now reconnect with our indigenous beliefs and practices that were marginalized during the colonial era. So the process, Caribbean theology, and the study that we want to embark on, fosters a sense of pride and self-determination among Caribbean communities, and challenges the dominance of Eurocentrism in theological discourse. Again, and by the way, and I'm going to say something, I believe that the Jamaican government is reading my work. I know that they are. I know they are following my stuff. And I'm going to say why. It's good though, because they know that we are doing this study. They are aware. People in the Caribbean know that we're conducting this study at JTS, that I'm doing this study, looking at the changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs, because they just passed a bill recently. A bill was just passed about the legalization of obeah, because the practice of obeah is illegal in Jamaica. The practice of obeah is illegal, and when there was a move or a bill to make obeah legal, many Jamaicans, especially led by the church, were opposed to that. So yes, this study that I'm embarking on is very important, looking at changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. And when I say to you that historically we've had a negative attitude towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs, I am not wrong, I am right. So yeah, go ahead.
Sir, so are you saying, am I to interpret then that you are okay with obeah as it is? You know, we know we have a negative connotation of obeah. Is it that you're okay with it being legalized? And let me put it into context. So you're okay with
Are you
All right.
okay? Well, no, of course you know my answer to that question. Okay, I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. The same black people who are asking for diversity, equity, and inclusion are going to create a bill or continue a policy that discriminates against a particular tradition that is Afro-Caribbean.
All right,
Absolutely
let me put it
ridiculous.
another
Yeah, go
let me
ahead.
put it another way then.
So
Let me
wait,
put it
no, just
another way.
because I am Christian and I believe in Jesus doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
mean that I must put down some other person's belief and faith because they believe in something different. And not only that, I am going. Let us. By the way, you weren't at my first class then when I was talking. We actually did a little lecture looking at Obia, and I'm going to talk. And that, by the way, I'm so happy I'm doing this class today, and I'm so happy I'm doing the research. You see how this is? Oh my God, this is great. Let us get Obia. I have a lecture prepared to you to talk to you about Obia, what Obia is, what voodoo is, what Rastaf. Okay, because and not only that, there are people who are corrupting the practice of Obia because Obia was seen as protection against evil. That was basically okay, protection and for healing purposes. Okay, it has nothing to do with attacking people. It was used in it became known as that by the same European people who wrote our texts, who have handed it down to us, and we continue those texts today. Okay, the French didn't like voodoo and they didn't like Obia because Obia and voodoo were used by the rebellions, the nanny of the Maroons and all of these rebels to fight against European occupation and domination. They would always pray to their ancestors. They would look to their ancestors. They'll pray to them. They'll speak. They'll seek the help of spirit to give them the wisdom and the courage and to bring people together and talk about how they can fight against. They did not rely on the
But
at
sir,
first. Wait, no, there was not a reliance on the white man's God. There was a reliance on that was known to them. You relying on their ancestors, calling on their ancestors, dancing to their ancestors, giving them strength and power to tear down those who were fighting against them. Now, the Europeans were against that. Okay. And so what they did was to create text and book. This is how they created text and book about Haiti and how Haiti colonized DR when that was not the case. Okay. When they actually
but
helped.
sir,
Okay, go ahead, Felmin.
you're very passionate about it.
I
And if you
am
continue,
passionate.
I'm gonna
I
miss my
can
point. I'm gonna
go
miss my
ahead.
point,
Sorry.
and you don't have it locked already. You don't have it locked already. But sir, if all of what you are saying, if that's how Obia, based on your description just now, if that's how it was presented to us, I'm sure a lot of persons would not have a pushback against it. But growing up,
Yes.
and if
Yes.
others on here tell me if they have heard another version as you put it just now. Growing up, we know Obia was introduced to us as something being evil, and it means me
But
see
who?
Alan as
Let me
shine.
ask the
Me
question.
let me finish
Who?
the point, sir.
Who? No,
Me
but you
see
have to
Alan. No,
answer.
no, sir.
Who? Who
Everybody,
introduced it?
everybody. Sir, I wasn't sit and a white man they teach me that. I was introduced this by our
But
own
who write
people.
our books? Who wrote our
No,
books?
well,
Where
I've
are we
never read
getting
this,
this from?
sir. I'm really ignorant. I've never sat down and read a book about Obia because I'm not interested. Because how it was presented to me, or introduced to me in terms of our culture, me see Alan a shine.
Nothing
Me not
black,
like
no
Alan. And
good.
me feel say Alan not reach ahead of me. So me go
Yes.
mother, go pray for mother bring down Alan. God forbid Alan, I won't do that. God bless you and
But
cover you in
okay, but
Jesus'
let me
name.
ask.
But then we use it
But
to stifle. It is presented in such a way we use it to tear down one another rather than, as you put it, to protect, to seek for strength, to seek for guidance. It is used in our culture as a negative way. I've never heard of Obia being used in a positive way, with the
oh my
exception of
God, we
Nani.
have to have.
Use it. I've never. It has never come to me in that way. So
You
it has
know,
always been presented to me in a negative way to tear down one another.
I'm happy. I
You not
have a.
figure this out, or you want to get ahead of somebody, so me go put a spell upon you, for want of a better word, so we can reach. So
Yes.
that's not something
Let me
to
ask you a question.
embrace.
that is from negative. That is from negative understanding about, okay, wrong understand, misnomer about. Let me make a point. You're making a. I'm going to make a point about abuse. What is it to abuse something? To abuse
To
something is to.
use to use it for your own benefit, whether it's a positive or a negative way, it doesn't matter as long
But
as it's
not only
benefiting
that,
you.
but not only that. To abuse something is to violate a thing's purpose. To abuse something is to use a thing for something that it was not intended or created for. It's to go against its
Fine,
purpose. A knife was
fine.
not created to kill or to cut people, but people use
Mm-hmm.
it. Is the knife bad?
No, it's the
So we
heart of
go,
the man that is corrupt.
but right. So, but yet we are creating laws, but we're going to create a law that's saying, okay, we won't have no knife anymore. We're going to outlaw knives.
Or put a restrictions on it and a certain class of persons who can use it.
Okay, right, but no, but what we need, no, but what, not, that means we are it's behavior. I said to you, behavior. Same thing with artificial intelligence. The same thing with the Bible. Are we going to make the Bible illegal because people use their Christianity? Are we going to make Islam illegal because people use their certain corrupt Islam traditions and then use it to justify why they can use it? To bomb up planes and do a 9/11 and terroristic. Are we going to do that? The point I'm making is it is human beings that corrupt the purity of things. Okay, we read, and I said to you, when people want to control, they redefine a thing. Nothing black no good. We already have that in our heads. Nothing black no good. The Rastas not good. The voodoo not good. In fact, we have redefined the thing. So okay, I'm gonna do a. By the way, before you continue, I will do a lecture on Obia in a couple of minutes if we have time. I was gonna have you do you guys do the questionnaire, but I have a discussion that I have prepared. And if you follow my work, then you'll see some of my lectures on Obia and Afro-Caribbean beliefs. Because I say to you that many people have negative. In some other cultures, people believe the same thing about Christianity, and there are people today who are praying to Jesus to fight down other people. Now,
Fine. Answer
okay,
me this question, sir.
why,
Answer me this
why
question.
aren't there
Is
people? Aren't there people also praying to God, asking God to bring destruction on other people who they believe are
which
not for
God?
them?
Which God? Which
I
God?
mean,
The Almighty God?
people even say in the name of Jesus. I'm telling you that I
Yeah,
was
but
a boy, and we know it. In Jamaica, people would pray by, okay, you do that to me, I'm gonna pray what? I'm gonna shoot God for you. Look, God,
I'm gonna pray a bad prayer.
I'm talking, and I'm
Yes,
like,
I'm
you
a
think
pray bad prayer for you.
violent. It's the same thing that is happening. However, our attitude towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs has led us to think that no, okay, certain religions can do it, but others can't. If you Obias, they can't do that, or they don't. It's safe if okay, let's study communism and capitalism or Marxism. In the US, communism is bad, okay, but capitalism is good. But in China or Russia, communism is good, capitalism is bad. Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Islam, Christianity is bad, Islam is
Mm-hmm.
good. You come here, you come to Jamaica or Islam is bad, Christianity is good. It's the kind of ethnocentrism, it's the kind of Occidentalism or the kind of Orientalism that Ian Baruma and Edward Said talks about that continues in society today, and people don't even know it. Okay, people don't even we have been so brainwashed. That I'm so happy she introduced that word because I was going to use use that word because I was going to talk about that today. The project, we have been so brainwashed to believe that Obia is bad, and the only say for example, you define the thing. What did I say to you? How you control? You redefine the thing. You strip away the purity of the thing itself and formulate an own understanding. Same thing with slaves, saying that there is the talk about slave, create the idea of slaves, and then put slaves at the bottom of society. It's you look. I'm so happy you are. I like this. I like where we're going with this. This is great. I'm happy that you are coming at me like that. That's good. I love it because
But sir,
that
let's
is
be
good. I
clear.
love it. This is great because it helps me to understand. It helps me to it validates in my mind how important a study that we are doing in this class, a study like this one. We have a responsibility. That's why we practice Caribbean theology, because it is our responsibility we say we are critical thinkers. It's thinking about thinking and thinking about what was. You see why in the first class I spent so much time talking about critical thinking? We do critical thinking, but we don't even realize that we're not thinking critically when we continue to go with the kind of thinking that Obia is evil. Because Obia is not evil. It is people that make the thing evil. Okay. Obia is a purist kind of religion that came about as a result of the people praying to their ancestors, integrating Muslim religions and other religions, and using it and relying on the spirit to pray against the European, to pray against the masters. The masters didn't like that, and they have created text that continues today. I knew Obia was bad because of what my mom told me. They know because of who told her that? A European master who controlled.
All right, sir. All right, let me be more specific then. All right, so I take your argument. Even the good thing can be used in a corrupt or bad way, and at least I want to say something. I think that, and I'm not here saying that we should not embrace our Africanness or blackness or culture. That's not what I'm saying. But and you say critical thinking or being rational. We have to, even though that may be so, but we have to reach a place where we can look into the matter and say, boy, there are certain aspects of my culture that I do not agree with, or I don't like, or it's not good for me. We have, if we can't reach, if we're going to be biased, then we have a problem. We have to be able to reach a point, just like what you said earlier. You should be at a place in a religion or your faith where you can question certain things. Because if you're not comfortable in questioning and asking the hard question, it means therefore that you are not totally accept or you don't understand what it is you're about, right? So with that said,
by the way, Feldman, please remember I said to you, as a post-colonial, we have to be a skeptic. Okay, as a post-colonial, we have to be a skeptic. And when people we can't take things for granted. We say, okay, Obia is bad, but who said it's bad? Okay, who said that Obia is bad? Where we get that from? Have we really delved into Obia and studied its history? In fact, that's one thing we're going to do in this class today, and I actually have a lecture prepared for that. Obia is an Afro-Caribbean spiritual practice involving various rituals, charms, and potions for healing, protection, and other purposes. That is the original intent and purpose of Obia for how it was created.
Unfortunately, sir, that has not been my reality, and no white man has ever told me this. And let me be more personal. Imagine hearing this from my mother.
Yes.
And that my father did work some spirit or bosom on her. And, you know, as a child, you don't want to hear that. But then you have my brothers and sisters independently recounting the details of stuff that my father would have done. And it was perceived and it was presented in a negative way, to the fact that it hurts my self-esteem to hear that my father would have done some things to my mother. To date, I feel embarrassed, right? And it's all in the name of Obia, right? How I was introduced, I heard about this. Obia is something to be frowned at because it's always been used in a negative way to hurt, to do anything. So hearing you presenting the other side to it, I will agree to my ignorance, but it has not been something that I'm interested to go to delve into, because fearing that I will be drawn into something that is evil and that is not good, right? So hearing you say now that there are other parts of it, and I can see the rationale, for healing and all of that, but it was corrupted somewhere, somehow. But sir, the average Jamaican don't know not more that. What you are talking about? We only know Obia as something with a frowned upon.
The position you have objecting to a particular belief is the position that many have objecting to Christianity. Why are Rastafarians like Bob Marley objecting to Christianity today? Because they believe the very same thing you believe, that first of all, that Jesus is a Satan, and that they had used Christianity to enslave black people. And they say
there are some Africans, the Rastafarians incorporate Christian beliefs in their teachings. The
Yeah,
Ethiopian Orthodox and those. Yeah, and there's a division in the
yes, yes.
Rastafarian culture. So to say that to use Christianity to say that Jesus is evil and all of that and blah blah blah. It
Yes.
is Rastafarian religion in itself is confusing because one side is
All
saying,
religions. I mean, first
yeah,
of all religions might seem confusing.
all right, Chrissy.
Okay. All religions may have, okay, I'm not going to use the word confusing. I'm going to say all religions might seem a little bit perplexing and difficult to understand,
And
but
have some contradictions.
I'm going to say, okay, but no, that is okay. That is okay. That's the beauty of life, because that's why I said to you, we are limited. God is not. Because we are limited, we project, but God still embraces us. But the problem I have is when we start to lord it over others, that if we are better than you. When
No, no.
all of us have issues, and you know what I mean. And I'm like, but we pray to God, not to man. But I said to
Mm-hmm.
people, to talk about Obia in such a negative light is discriminatory. To talk about Obia, it's not only is it discriminatory, it also speaks to it continues a kind of ethnocentrism and a kind of strategy by the Europeans who have always said nothing black no good. So yeah, they talk
I lie
about
them I
Obia,
tell sir.
but wait, no, they talk about Obia, but Obia is said, oh, anything, if you want to anytime you want to describe something as being bad, you use the word
Right.
black. The same thing in terms of religion. Anytime you want somebody do something bad to you, is Obia that wears the shirt. That okay, Obia, something that is black, something that is African. Okay, it is not European, it's not Jesus, it's not, it's the Obia man that does it. Okay, and I said to you, and this is how in Haiti, voodoo is the same kind of pushback, and in other cultures, Afro believes that even the African man, our religions, and Obia and voodoo were utilized by the Africans as to encourage, to inspire. Okay, and they believe that it gave them the power to fight against their um their enslavers. That was the and okay, and so the Europeans were never in favor of the practice of Obe and voodoo and any tradition. Okay, it was outlawed, it was illegal, and the reason why Obe is illegal today is because of it's a century-old law that a white man, okay, that our former masters, I'm not going to use the word white because I don't want to sound discriminatory and racist, that a particular group of people, privileged people, who on when they had colonized us, didn't want the black people to practice Obe. Didn't want the black because okay, Obe represents what? An attack against tradition. Obe represents
Mm-hmm.
an attack against the established system. So of course it was
White
in
supremacy.
and that is the education that we have. That is the kind of and then of course we talk about that, and that's what the church teach. That is what the church teach, and all of Jamaican institution is driven by the church, and okay, that is, and the church's tradition comes from a Eurocentric or European tradition that teaches against Obia and these other traditions. And not only that, we live in a very competitive system and religions are part of that competitive system. The religion is part of that capitalist system, okay, competing for dominance, competing for primacy, competing, okay, that's kind of this the world system that we live in. So when you start to look at, you have to really delve deep into this, and that's why you are here, Felmin. You are at Jamaica Theological Seminary as a critical thinker, as a scholar, as an academic, to now sit, to now do the hard work of thinking and looking at history, doing the research to find out what actually pertains and what actually exists. But I love the conversation. Oh my God, this is amazing. This is beautiful. I love it. This is good. Thank you so much.
Okay,
And
sir.
I'm going to talk about Obi in a little bit from this, but let me
Sir,
finish.
Alice has been dying to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, go
Let her go
ahead,
ahead.
Alistair. Go ahead.
Tamika has been patiently waiting.
Yes.
So sir, I just wanted to know, how do you justify being a Christian and also being accommodating of
Thank you very much, Alice. I wanted to ask that question, but I love the fact that you asked it.
How I justify being Christian and accommodating.
of OBL? Yeah. And I said accommodating because he said it's not a bad thing.
Well, I mean, that's a conversation I'll have to have another time with you guys. But I believe that you can be a Christian and be accommodating, because first of all, I believe that that God is beyond us. I believe God is than that which is nothing greater can receive, can God is than that which nothing greater can be conceived or imagined. So I said to people, I choose to be a Christian. Okay. I understand the world in my Christian lens. That is what I grew up on. I'm a Christian. That is what I accept. If I lived in another culture, maybe I would have been something else. But okay, but I believe that but I said to people, I don't believe in privileging. I don't believe in privilege either. All right. I cannot say that just because I accept my Christian faith, then nobody else truth or whatever somebody else have is not normative to them. Then I'd be committing the same sin as what was done by people who were done it to my forefathers. I have to be okay. So I have to say to myself, I believe that there is a God, and I use my Christian faith to relate with this God. But I also want to learn. I have an openness to other faiths and traditions, okay? Because I am a human being, as Descartes says. I think, therefore I am, and human. And what did I say about history? The result of human natures and circumstances, okay? I live in the Caribbean. I have Jamaican parents of a particular culture. People in another part of the world have a different, okay, so I'm already studying, looking at how, so I believe that what I believe and what I promote is this. I promote the fact that I'm open to all faiths. In other words, I'm open. I want to hear what the Ube man is saying. I want to hear what the Voodoo man is saying. I want to hear what everybody's saying. But I also want an opportunity to share what my faith and my traditions. Okay, because I said, and that's what I believe. I believe that because God is beyond us, I cannot use my limitations and privilege thinking that God only works with me as if I am better than you. Because okay, that is my point. So I am open to yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I will have a problem may I develop with that, because if I'm going,
Yes.
if you're saying Christianity, and I understand you're trying to your best to be liberal, fine. We're liberal, being accommodative, listening on. There's a difference between listening someone's view that differs from you to get an understanding, so we can have a proper understanding and intelligent conversation. But it doesn't necessarily mean me understanding what you believe doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to hold true or accept wholesale what you're saying. But however, let me finish. However, I want to listen to you to understand you so that I can better relate to you and we have a mutual respect for each other. But how do you justify our Christian principles starting in the Torah that says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one," all right? And we don't have no other God and all of that. And if we're the Christian teachings is coming directly from God.
No, hold
Yes,
on.
sir.
I talked about that at the beginning of the class. I talked about the Torah.
Yeah.
Okay. I talk about how people privilege. If I said to you, I can't sit down and have a conversation with you. I studied the foundations of knowledge and the hegemony of faith. I talk about back in the days, there were people, I talk about the capitalism of religions. Okay. I talk about how the franchisement of religion. I'm not in the business of that. And I say to you that when you study the Torah is first a cultural book. Okay. I said to you, you cannot divorce a culture, the Torah, you cannot divorce the culture, because first of all, it was the culture that continued the way of life. First of all, it was culture and it was also religion. So in other words, what passed for the Torah is really a cultural / a theological book that helps to preserve the culture, the way of life. In other words, your circumcision, don't put carpet on your house, you have to live a certain, so on and so forth. The Torah is a cultural book, okay? And I talk about the issue of culture. and I talk about the people that, and I said to you that God is beyond us. God is unlimited and we are limited. Okay. God can show himself to you and you interpret it in one way. God shows himself to somebody else, interprets it in that way. Now, what he does with that knowledge is dependent on what he does with that knowledge. There are those who have used their human natures steeped in privilege to create a particular theology that they have institutionalized as being better than the other. That's the point I'm making. The point I make, so as I said to you, when you start to delve into the study of religion, which is religion is cultural, because every single culture and every single society, every single history have their understanding of. Does it mean that that history is better than the other? It means then that as an individual, knowing what I know, I cannot believe. I do not privilege any position, and I do not privilege my faith. That's the point I'm making. I am against privilege. And I say to you, human beings have always tried to privilege themselves by stroking their ego, and have developed various strategies that promote themselves over others because of our competitive natures. Okay. And I said that's what has dogged humanity. And I'm going to say this to you. Jesus showed us a picture of what it takes for the world to come together. You know what Jesus did? He stepped outside of his deity. That's what, he stepped outside of his deity in order to bring all men to himself. He rejected, but Jesus himself was not accepted. Because when Jesus came on the scene, he wasn't accepted. Was Jesus accepted?
Oh, it went against the traditional norm.
Precisely. He went against tradition. Okay? Human beings have always gone against tradition. But Jesus showed that's what it took in order to bring the Gentiles into the fold. Okay? He created a new religion, and then that religion started rivaling Jews for Jesus. Okay? Until they created a Roman identity. But we're gonna table this conversation, but I have to finish the lecture. You are making a very good point. I feel strongly on the issue. I've spoken about this a lot. I've written about this. I've a lot of times. So we'll have some time to talk some more about this. But I want to finish the class.
Okay, so I'm gonna be myself now.
No. You're fine. You're fine. I like this because part of some of the questions you are asking, you are preempting me. And it is very important that we expose ourselves to information. Again, what I said to you, we're studying Caribbean thought. And when you ask me as a Christian, how do we embrace, I choose, and I said to you, I go to United Church in Jamaica. I used to be a member of United Church. I'm now a member of the UCC Church of Christ. We have rabbis in our church. We have Muslim people that come to our church. We believe that God is always speaking. So the question you asked me, the question that have been asked me 10 times over, and I've written about it. It's not that, it is something that I've already thought about, and I've already come to a position in my mind, and I'm living that position. Okay. I do not discriminate. If I discriminate, I'm a hypocrite. Okay. Then first of all, I'm a human being. And when you start, and today in this class, you're learning in this class that you can't look at society as a broad, you have to look at, as a post-colonial skeptic, you have to now look at society critically, because what we have as society today involves a lot of human influence, and human beings are tainted with a nature that is steeped in privilege. And every society privilege their own cultures and their own things, their own worship, their own faith. And when the Black people and brown peoples came to the Caribbean, we know they were forced to abandon their faith for one that was European, and they created texts that demonize stuff like Obia. If I know all of that, why would I still force myself to discriminate against a faith, when I know all the histories and I'm studying the foundations of knowledge? and the hegemony of faith. If you are not exposed to knowledge and truth, and there are people who make it their business not to expose people to knowledge and truth, so that they can continue their hegemony and their privilege. People don't want to, and I say to you, Feldman, it is your responsibility to know, that people corrupt the truth in order to, when you study power, I say you study power and control. And when you study power and control, people redefine a thing as what it is not in order to colonize or to control. That's what they did with black people. Okay. And anything that's black or come from black, they corrupt it to something bad. And up to today, it is still seen as bad. Obia is one of them. Yes. I say to you, I live in Jamaica. If I lived in another culture, maybe I would have been something else. But I say to you, God is in his infinite ways. It's colorful. Okay, you look at the world. You look at the world today. Nothing is the same. Nothing. Okay, God, the world that is reflected back to all of us and to the world is one that is diverse. Okay, one that is diverse. First of all, I don't worship man. I worship God. Man feels away if we accept certain things. But I'm like, why should you feel away? You're not God. You don't even know how God feels about it. It's just you think God feels away. That means you are God. I'm not worshiping you. That's my response to people. I don't worship you. Everybody listen, everybody have to work out. Ultimately, you have to work out your own salvation, because first
with fear and trembling.
Faith is a personal matter. But no, I won't let you speak because I have to finish this quickly, and then
it's just one concern I have, sir. Maybe finish after this.
Yes,
I promise.
5 minutes.
The problem is I have is, sir. I appreciate your point of view, but the problem I'm having is how do you deals with the fact that the Bible or Christianity or the Christian principles or God as we know it teaches against some of the practices in the different religion, Obia, Israel, whatever. When we're speaking about Obia, some of the very principles and teachings that we are putting forward, our practices, the Bible speaks against them, like ancestral worship and all of that. The Bible, there's a word that I'm trying to find. How do you deal with that part of it? That's a struggle I'm having. Fine. Accept that it's a part of our culture, whatever, but it goes against the grain of Christianity that you and I have upheld. How do you deal with that? How do you reconcile that?
You should not use the word you and I. I'm 49, 44, 45 this year. My Christianity is different from another person's Christianity. And I say to you, Christianity that we have today is not the Christianity that we have yesterday. Or maybe one of the ways some people deal with it is by starting a new denomination. I'm being funny, but I'm telling the truth. That's how people have dealt with it. Start their own denomination, and nothing is wrong with that. Okay, nothing is wrong with people that. Okay, people must be comfortable in their own skin, and people relate to what makes sense to them based on how God has made us, because we are all made in a particular way, and God relates to us in a very unique way. So, okay, so there are some people, and that is why you think we have the Anglican Church today, because many people believe that the Roman Catholic Church, or which was the church at the time, was not being true to the Christian institution or the Christian faith as it was created by Jesus. Then somebody else started something else. Yes. And in fact, that's how religion started today, because some people feel as though, they had the truth, but we got more of the truth. Okay. So when you look at these religious prophets, the same thing, religion, okay, everybody feel as though they have a version of the truth. Nothing is wrong with that. It is wrong when people start to privilege their position, and then all of a sudden people start to fight and have arguments. And that is the death of society. That is the end of society. The division. When people cannot accept each other, or when it's not real, and you know why people can't accept each other? Because we are privileged. And we don't even know that. As much as we are against privilege, we are for it. We stroke our own egos, and then people create institutions to continue a particular following. Okay, we'll talk about that some more because I'll get into when I start to get into, because my doctoral studies is looking at the foundations of knowledge and the hegemony of faith. I'm going to say that again. So there's more to what I'm saying to you, which I'm not saying to you because of the class. There's more that I'm studying and I'm learning. So, but when you start to study Mesopotamia and Samaria, okay, when you start to study Jews for Jesus and Jews not for Jesus, and that whole the development from Homer all the way up to Augustine and then beyond that, then you start to, but you have to be willing to delve into the studies and open oneself, okay? But we'll talk about that further in shortly. But I need to finish up this particular lecture that I'm doing. This is very important. I wanted to make a point that one of the key goals of Caribbean theology is to encourage and reclaim cultural identity. We said that. By doing what? By integrating elements of African and Caribbean spirituality, we can reconnect with our indigenous beliefs and practices that were marginalized during the colonial era. Okay? The colonial era. Obeah is one of them. Again, by integrating elements of African and Caribbean spirituality. Because I'm saying to you, we are part of a people that came from another world, another continent. Another people who practice, our ancestors practice some other faith, some other traditions. We are, our ancestors, I mean, of course, we are all mixed, but okay, but they're saying that we are still black and we look closer, but it doesn't matter. But whatever the case is, the point I'm making is this. You are brought here and you are told to divorce and to dissociate yourself from anything from the past because it is not good, not black, not good. Your traditions were wrong. Your traditions are bad. Okay. European understanding of faith is the right faith and it's the right religion. And you are brainwashed by that for years. They've written books demeaning Obeah, demeaning black culture, demeaning African identity to the point where you are willing to wear bleaching cream to make yourself look good. Even after studies show that it is bad, people, they are still going to do that. Okay, that is how people are still, no matter how people talk about Obeah, not being that people still going to believe that, no matter how, what was it the biblical scripture, the harlot, who they say was Rachel, what biblical woman in the Bible that was no longer a harlot, but even after she became, who was it?
Rahab.
They still call her the harlot. Okay, yeah, okay. So I said, by integrating elements of African and Caribbean spirituality, we can reconnect with our indigenous beliefs. And by the way, I was ordained by the United Church in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. I know United Church in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands in particular, they don't necessarily believe in proselytizing, but providing information and facilitating discussions, like the Council for World Missions. That's what they believe. And of course, part of the confusion in some of the churches in the Caribbean today, and particularly Jamaica, with the Council for the United Theological College of the West Indies, Adjunct Jamaica Theological Seminary, and some people some churches and institutions don't send their people to JTS, and some people don't because they want to preserve their identity and preserve their also they don't want to lose members. Okay, there is that idea behind that, but I said to people, that stifles growth, development, and Caribbean unity and integration. And not only that, it also helps to support colonial understanding about Caribbean identity and people as coming from a culture where nothing black is good. I will not be part of that same education and that strategy that has always demeaned blackness and anything that comes from blackness as being bad, and those who have sought to corrupt it. And by the way, there are people, just because the Rastas reject Jesus and anything Christian for Rastafarianism because they believe that Satan, Jesus represents the devil. Okay. While, okay, there are people who believe that. But we live in a society where everybody have the right to a belief and based on who God made them to be. or how God made them and what they accept. Okay. But what is God saying about this? We don't know until we have died. Okay. Okay. But so in the meantime, we have created a world that is steeped in competition and privilege. However, Caribbean theology is very important. By integrating elements of African and Caribbean spirituality, we can reconnect with our indigenous beliefs and practices that were marginalized during the colonial era. And I believe they were. I'm happy that we're doing this class and that I'm having this conversation with Felmin and with the entire class, with all of you actually. This process fosters a sense of pride when you're able to reconnect with the past. Because now you are scholars. When I saw that this bill was being considered, that who was it, PNP or JLP introduced this bill, I was intrigued. Little did I know until today. I learned today that they introduced the bill. I wrote this article a year ago, and I've been doing this study about a year and a half ago, and all of a sudden this bill was introduced. Okay, so I was very impressed and happy that they introduced that bill. Okay, because first of all, I talk about the problem of culture. Just because Jamaica, okay, fine, Jamaica, okay, fine. Jamaica say we are a Christian country, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to discriminate and keep on the books a law that discriminates against people who accept Obia. That's the point I'm making. Okay, that's the point I'm making. It is as if Jamaicans want to adopt a totalitarian and dictatorial country, or Caribbean people, okay, because they believe as though everybody have this is their culture and all Jamaicans must abide by this culture. But that not all Jamaicans feel like how 90% of other Jamaicans feel about a particular practice or behavior. And first of all, when since we start to legislate on traditions, faiths, and beliefs, religion, people, all we should have, if we believe in the Constitution of the US, or sorry, not the Constitution, if we believe in this ethics that all men have rights, okay, we all have rights. And as Pan-African people that are Pan-African post-colonial, we believe that all men have rights. The older men have rights. Okay, I talk about, as earlier I was making a point about socialism and capitalism. There are people who will tell you that socialism is bad. It's about having totalitarian government. You can't do what you want to do. That's not true. That's not what socialism is about. But that's what I'm telling you. That's how control works. When people want a particular narrative, they corrupt the purity of a thing that they don't understand and tear it down in order to build themselves up or to control the narrative. We have to think in, and that I'm making that point again over and over and over and over again. Okay, making that point over and over and over again. Even if I, as a Christian, accept Christianity, but don't worship Obia or don't follow the teachings of the Obia man or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that I must advocate for the Jamaican government to legislate, to create a law that discriminate against a particular people practicing the faith because of lies and myth about it, or what people make it to be. Because people can make Christianity to be what it's not. Say, for example, we talk about cult of Christianity. You have Christianity. There's also a cult of Christianity. There's also the occult. Okay, there is no legislation against Jehovah's Witness, is there? But they say no, it's not evil. Jehovah's Witnesses is not said to be evil. Okay, unless but if there is a myth about the thing being evil, then say for example, or Islam, there's no legislation against Islam. We're not going to discriminate against people who want to practice. Okay, just as though if just because somebody's a Muslim, doesn't mean we must legislate, we must discriminate and have on the books. It means that I can't be a neighbor, I can't be friends, we can't be countrymen because people identify different with different religions and faith. That's also part of the point I'm making. But okay, not fine. And the church was against them legalizing it, and I was very upset about that. And I want to know if the United Church. No, I don't think the United Church. The church was against, saying that it is evil. That's what Jamaicans use and many people use to prevent change. That's why, okay, to prevent change. They call something as evil. Okay, they determine it as evil based on the limited understanding. They are not even the thing. And okay, are they here old time people who have also been brainwashed and inherited a kind of truth about Obia being bad. Okay, but when you study, but we are historians, real historians. We don't operate on hearsay. You go, we study and reflect. Okay, and I'm saying to you, Obia has not. Obia is just like any other religion, okay, or any other faith. That people find value in that faith and connects them with the divine. But there are those who, and I said to you, are we true Christians when we uphold, okay, a discriminatory practice against those who may see as philosophically valuable another faith? That is not what post-colonialists do. So as the Caribbean theology process, this fosters a sense of pride and self-determination among Caribbean communities, and it challenges the dominance of Eurocentrism in theological discourse. Eurocentrism. Part of saying that Obia is evil is the Eurocentrism. Even the church is saying that it is the kind of selfishness that has been sown in our minds, is the kind of Eurocentrism that we think that we are against, but we are not. But guess what? It's hard to reconcile when somebody asks you, how can you be Christian and still embrace the Obia man? No, that's not the question. I mean, we should embrace everyone just as Jesus did. When Jesus was on the porch, the Obia man was there too, don't he? And I know he allowed him to talk. But anyways, we won't go there. We're not, okay, but to develop a law and for us to fight against a law that allows Obia to be freely practiced in Jamaica is tantamount to doing what our masters did, because of our position. We're being ethnocentric. We don't believe that. We don't think that. That is ethnocentrism. Okay, to prioritize and to privilege your own values over another, and then to go as far as to embrace and to accept rules of engagement speaking to that ethnocentric position. Let's talk about Black liberation theology. Black liberation theology, which emerged as a response to racial oppression in the US, has also influenced Caribbean theology. Now, the movement in the United States, or the movement of the United Negro, the UNIA, the United Negro Improvement Association, and the rise of Rastafari during the Great Depression had a significant impact on the development of Caribbean theology. Again, the UNIA, of course, who started UNIA? Marcus Garvey. These interconnected movements of the global South and North show the symbiotic relationship between oppressed communities worldwide. Critical thinking plays a crucial role in Caribbean theology, enabling us to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information. Again, critical thinking, that's why we always start with critical thinking in this class. Critical thinking plays a crucial role in Caribbean theology, enabling us to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information and ideas objectively. So when I try to teach this class, it's the first time I ever really talk about my position, and I really haven't given you my position still completely. But I try to be objective, although I am very subjective in my objectivity. But through critical thinking, we can better understand history and its its interpretation, acknowledging the various influences that have shaped our theological perspectives. The various influences. Now, as we approach the examination, the examination on Caribbean, it's very important that we focus on these issues. The first one is this. Black liberation theology challenges the Christian missions in the Caribbean and the importance of faith in advocating for justice and equality. Again, one of the, and probably we could ask it like, what is the role of what is the role of the post-colonial subject like yourself, like ourselves? Who is the cardinal academic? What is the role of Caribbean theology or Caribbean thought in encouraging cultural identity? The significance of Black liberation theology and the challenge of Christian missions in Caribbean and the importance of faith in advocating for justice and equality. It's not easy to do that. It's many people still grapple with that today. Okay. Not only that, because I said to people, say for example, the Bible says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man coming to the Father except through me. And I said to people, that is a caveat that was applied to the scriptures. And by the way, the Bible is not one book. The Bible is 66 books that some men have cherry-picked to be in the Bible that supports a particular kind of worship and kind of knowledge. Just so you know. And I say to people, there are some things in the Bible that would make it seem difficult for somebody to embrace, to accept, or to consider other people of other faiths. And I said to you, the Bible was also written at a time that was steeped in competition, where people were competing against who would be the dominant religion of the day. The Bible was written within that context and must also be understood within that milieu, within that milieu. When you understand that, then you are very appreciative of what you know and your approach of other things. To refute and to refuse to think how culture is part of theology is to be easily swayed by a theology of privilege that objects to embracing any other faith from other cultures. Now, when you talk about the study of let's look at some quick definitions of theology. One, theology is the study and contemplation of the divine, spiritual, and religious beliefs, often conducted within a particular faith tradition. Notice I said the word faith tradition. Traditions within a particular faith. Theology is the study and contemplation of the divine, of the ultimate, of spiritual and religious beliefs, often conducted within a particular faith. Now, we talk about within the particular. But there are those who universalize the practice of theology, moving from the particular to the general. If theology is conceptualized within the particular, when does it become general? Or how? What shape does it take? Christianity was formulated within the particular. Judaism was formulated within the particular. Islam was formulated within the particular context, particular culture, particular tradition at a particular time, based on what was going on at that time. When you understand that, how then must one act to all other things in one's engagement and interaction of all things? We talk about Caribbean theology. What is Caribbean theology? Caribbean theology is the exploration and interpretation of religious concepts, beliefs, and practices within the context of the Caribbean region's diverse cultures and history. So we talk about theology, highlighting the particular faith tradition. So therefore, it brings into sharp focus Caribbean theology, which is the exploration and interpretation of what? Of religious concepts, beliefs, and practices within the context of Caribbean regions, diverse cultures and history. And although we accept the Caribbean as being diverse, And although we say out of many one people, we still have a problem embracing and accepting other faiths, other tradition, and other ways. We are hypocritical. We are duplicitous. Like in Philadelphia, they say Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. But yet still, of all the cities in the US, Philadelphia is one of the most dangerous cities. And there ain't much love around here. Somebody said, if you not from here, don't come here. Somebody from Philly said that. That's not true. Philly have its spots, just like Jamaica. Okay. Now, when we talk about Afro-Caribbean spirituality, what are we talking about? So we talk about theology. We talk about Caribbean theology. Oh wow, I'm thought about sharing that. Wait, it's 7 o'clock. The class is 6 o'clock there. Wait, hold on. What time is it in Jamaica?
It's 9 minutes past 6.
What time am I supposed to end the class? At 6?
Yes, sir.
Wait, so the class is finished?
Yes, sir, it is.
Oh my God. And wait, okay, let me wrap up here. I'm gonna wrap up here, guys, then. I'm gonna wrap up. And by the way, this I want to I'm gonna share this particular lecture is available in ronaldocmckenzie.com as well. Let me see if I could bring this up and go to my. But you know, when class is this intense and amazing, this is good. I like when class is interactive. That's fine if we talk, and that's good. We're about to end, but go to this. You can. Oops. This is the lecture. By the way, if you guys just joining us, there is an assignment for you guys to do. There's work. Don't end the class. Okay? Very important. I just need to wrap up this lecture. I sent you a document, which is a document that you will find the definitions. There are some definitions. Familiarize yourself with the definitions. The link I send you, it has what I'm discussing, and it also has some definitions that define theology, Caribbean theology, Afro-Caribbean spirituality, and what's Afro-Caribbean spirituality? The spiritual beliefs and practices rooted in the in the African diasporic heritage found within the Caribbean region. Excuse me. Liberation theology is a theological movement that seeks to do what? To address social, political, and economic oppression, often emphasizing the liberation of marginalized groups such as Obia people who and that is why the government was trying to legalize. Okay, because in some revivalist cultures, it's not just they practice Obia. Please remember, Obia is not a faith; it's a tradition. It's a practice. It's a belief, and that belief, that tradition, is utilized in some faith, in some systems like revivalism. Voodoo is a practice, a tradition that is also utilized in revivalism. Just so you know. And we have a lot of Christian revivalists in Jamaica who practice voodoo. But many people look down on revivalists, discriminate against them. Even have it on the books not to practice Obia, but because they say Obia, the practice of Obia is evil. Anything evil is not good and illegal. Therefore, it's time to reason that Obia should remain illegal, or the practice of it. That is what you call deductive reasoning. Logical reasoning, but the reason is fallacious and flawed, okay? Because it starts from a premise, an assertion that has been inherited from the masters. This is when you look at an argument, you start with the premise, the secondary statement, and then supporting statement and conclusion. Obia is not good. Obia is evil. Okay? Obia is evil. Obia is if it's evil and illegal, anything evil should not be legal. Therefore, Obia should be made illegal. You see the argument I just made? That's a logical argument, following the laws of logic. Premise, secondary, third, and you saw that? That is a logical argument, but it's wrong because it starts with a premise that is yet to be proven to be true or that has been corrupted. Let me say this again. The logical argument. Obia is evil. Anything evil is illegal and not good. Anything evil should not be legalized. Obia should therefore be illegalized. But it starts with the premise that is wrong, a premise that is rooted in assumption that is biased, assertive, and full of ethnocentrism and Orientalism. Or, sorry, I should say Occidentalism. Something is wrong. The assertion is wrong, so therefore the conclusion is going to be wrong. Okay? So what needs to happen is an education. The government, and that's my problem with the Jamaican government, when they are introducing a bill. There's a problem when governments introduce a bill to change something that many people feel strongly about, based having been brainwashed for years. You don't just come and introduce a bill. You start to have a discussion about it, like a class like this. You start having the discussions about it. Okay? You start having the discussion. Let me wrap up quickly. What is Obia? Obia is an Afro-Caribbean spirituality. Sorry, an Afro-Caribbean spiritual practice involving various rituals, charms, and potions for healing, protection, and other purposes. What is Eurocentrism? Eurocentrism is a perspective that prioritizes European culture, history, and values as central and superior to other cultures. So when we want to place a ban or let the ban for Obia remain, or when we think that we don't want to embrace, that is based on a Eurocentrism, a perspective that has been embedded in Caribbean education, and by virtue of our mind and our behaviors. Okay, our attitudes towards Obia comes from a kind of Eurocentrism that we all have. This is our attitudes towards how you speak, our attitudes towards blackness. We are more we more readily and easily accept people who speak a certain way and who look a certain way. But if you're too black and speak too rugged, or to look African and you practice or look too Afrocentric and so on, that people, you're not readily embraced and accepted. Even within our own cultures, that continues to today. Critical thinking is the ability to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information and ideas objectively and logically. Now, when we talk about hermeneutics from the margins, what are we talking about? It is an interpretive approach that gives voice to marginalized perspectives and experiences in biblical and theological studies. Hermeneutics, again, from the margins. Jesus didn't practice a kind of faith that was only to the Jews. Okay? He did not. Yet still we are willing as people of faith and love to, and Jesus did not discriminate or didn't tell them they can't do what they're doing. He allowed them to do what they're doing, but still highlight the other way. And in order for Jesus to develop this new Christianity, he had to dissociate himself, remove himself, step away from his own people, his own faith. He became a new thing and preached new ideas to a new group of people and started a new religion. What does that tell us? If Jesus, who is seen by us as the God-man incarnate, can separate himself from something else, and he did not say what the Hebrew or Judaism was wrong. Okay, he stepped out. Okay, if he can do that, why is it that we are unwilling to recognize our own Afro-Caribbean beliefs? We won't even accept that. And I'm going to stop right there for now. I'm going to stop. We have much more to say. I was good. Now, what I want you guys to do, because the next class we're going to pick up from this, because we're going to talk about Obia some more. I want to delve into Obia, talk about Dr. Bookman, talk about how Obia came to Jamaica and how it spread. I want to talk about that. Talk a little bit about Afro-Caribbean beliefs some more. What it is, what has been the history in Afro-Caribbean beliefs. I want to delve into that a little bit, because I think it's very important. that we begin to understand and study that and so on. So we're going to delve into that, and then I'm going to also tell a little bit some more about my positions, I guess. And um but by the way, if you begin to read, I wrote something called Embracing Diversity, Exploring Caribbean Theology and its Cultural Roots. So this is the conversation I had with Felmin is like, I taught Caribbean theology, just so you know, and I have had a conversation just like this and even more than this. So it is not something that I'm ill prepared for another. This is something this is the kind of discussion that we've been having all the time, and I stand resolute in my position. Okay. And my resolute, I do not practice privilege. I don't practice franchisement. Okay. I'm not a capitalist when it comes down to my faith. Okay. That much I will tell you. And I will stop right there for now. Okay, guys. Now I sent a link in the group that in the Zoom link, I want you guys to do this study and tell me what you think about it. And please remember that you guys are supposed to be formulating your own proposal that speaks to this research. You will do the same research in your community or in your church or in your own community among 20 people. Find out what has been the attitude towards Afro-Caribbean belief, especially, by the way, let me share the screen and then we're going to wrap up. This is the last thing I'm going to share. This is very important. I'm going to share my screen. It's a study. I'm sharing from a study. Where is it? Caribbean. Is this the no. I'm trying to find okay, this is it. All right, there we go, guys. Now, you'll see my screen. This is actually you can go, I sent you guys this link, Jamaica Theological Seminary, Afro-Caribbean Beliefs, Research Study Questionnaire Exploring Changing Attitude Towards Afro-Caribbean Beliefs in Jamaica, by Jamaica Theological Seminary, Caribbean Thought and Theology class. I want each of you to complete this study, talk about it, tell me what the experience was like. And I want you guys to also create your own soft questionnaire and probably start having the conversation in your communities, in your churches, among different people. But I said in the study, thank you for your interest in participating in the research on Jamaican attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. Below is a questionnaire that can help us gather information regarding the changing attitudes and factors that may influence them. Over a year ago, the Jamaican Labour Party government announced, also it was JLP announced, it would open discussion. Oh, it was, okay, so I apologize. I apologize about the error. It never passed the bill. It announced it would open discussion to have the 122-year-old Obia Act repealed. It has been in the book longer than we got independence, since we were a colony of Britain. Okay. Since all that time, since we were colonies just coming out of slavery, it's been on the books. And it's still on the books today. But our peoples didn't put it there. Okay, and please remember, Obia is what? It's an African tradition, and it's been on our books over 122 years, meaning that it was before our independence that Obia was made illegal by people external to us, who embraced and pushed their faith tradition over and against ours. They saw our faith traditions as rebellious, okay, or leading to a rebellion. So I'm so happy that the Jamaican government have done that. They have opened the discussion to have the 122-year-old Obia Act repealed. When the announcement was made, many Jamaicans and church groups, many Jamaicans, especially church, rallied together to fight the motion. Their main argument was the same argument, which was a fallacy, a lie, a corrupted argument that has been entrenched in the minds of our forefathers. Bob Marley said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Their main argument was that Obia is inherently evil. Okay? And Felmin, I apologize for what you were told by your dad, but that was hearsay. That was rumor. That's how somebody feel. Okay? That's the assumption. And then you have to go before a court of law and prove that it was Obia. Has that been done? Did you take the Obia man? Did you take the Obia man to court? Did the Obia man have his day in court? Did the Obia have his day in court? No, because nothing black no good, and they don't even deserve. They don't even baptize blackness. They don't even dignify black stuff with the ability to be able to defend him or her or itself. That has always, and we continue the same thing that was done to us and our forefathers. We are doing it to our own selves. The main argument was that Obia was inherently evil. This argument is not based on ignorance, yes, arrogance, but more so from colonialism, the colonized mind. The main argument, the main premise that was put forward is an assumption. Obia is, okay, fine, it's evil. What do we, okay, inherently evil. Why? Oh, because people use it to, people use the Bible to beat other people. People use the Bible to do unjustly to other people, which has turned other people away from that same Christianity. So what are you talking about? We're being partial and biased and not true to the reality of what has really happened in history. And if we refuse to go back to history to study what really has happened and how we came here to believe what we believe today, then we are being unfair to truth, and we are also part of the problem of part of the kind of colonial problem we have today. I mean, how can there be true change? How can there be progress in society if we are unwilling to face the truth? If we are unwilling to engage ourselves with understanding how we got here and what we need to do to get back to where we need to be. There are people in Jamaica that practice Obia. What about them? What about them? Okay, it comes from a tradition that is African. What does it say about us? I said to you, even Dr. Ariel Henry snubbed at his own people. His own people. He snubbed, he rejected his own independence, his own sovereignty, his own people. Are we not doing the same thing? That's it for class today, guys. Now, I want you guys to do the assignment, changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. I'm happy that the Jamaican government has decided to do this. I hope I have an opportunity to do further lectures, facilitate some discussions when I will be in Jamaica in May. I hope, and this particular study is part of my research at Georgetown University, and I will begin Temple University in the fall. I'm moving from Georgetown going to Temple. I will be continuing the study, and when I come to Jamaica, I want to spend some time talking with several people about this very important study. And maybe this is something that JTS, it's a conversation I need to have with JTS and with the Jamaican government, in terms of facilitating this very discussion. This is the kind, if the Jamaican government introduce a bill, we need to have at Jamaica Theological Seminary, UTC, II, and we and the churches, we need to be, this is the discussions that we need to have in our churches. Open and honest and frank discussion, but they're not going to do it. Okay, because it threatened, it challenged their very institution and foundation. That's the problem. This podcast, this lecture is going to be available, and I hope that it will serve as another opportunity to begin having the conversation. Please pass out this. By the way, share this link with other people in your community. We want as many Jamaicans and people in Jamaica to do this study. And then we have gotten over 100 or 200 responses so far based on the study. And I hope that you guys will do the study and also start beginning to think about some of these issues. All right, guys, any questions before we wrap up? All right, guys, that's it. Thank you guys so much. Felmin, thank you so much. And if you guys would like to facilitate discussions like this, because this is important. The Jamaican government is considering getting rid of phobia as being evil. On the book, phobia is evil. And we need to start having discussions, lectures about these things. This is really powerful. This is what we should be doing. This is the kind of thing we should be doing. What are we doing? JTS president, UTCW, let up you guys. Can we start having the discussions? Student council body, can we start talking about these deep issues? This is what we should be doing as a seminary. Okay, guys, what good?
Okay, bye, sir. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care. Yeah, man.